Welcome to the Essential 99 Punctuation Rules for Court Reporters, video number 45, Spacing Part 1. I'm Ken Wick. Let's get started. This video covers spacing in the ebook rules 94 and 95. And Rule 94 is about the period and question mark. Rule 95 is about commas, semicolons, and colons. So spacing with a period and question mark. No space before and one space after a period or question mark. With monospaced fonts, that's typewriter-like fonts, use two spaces after a period or question mark. So this is the great controversy, is it one or two spaces after a period? Well, here's the answer. It's the BGGP and GRM state monospace fonts, like typewriter fonts, require two spaces. And court reporting transcripts typically use a monospace font. Therefore, these are typewriter-like fonts. Therefore, they require two spaces after a period or question mark. That's why, a court reporter will probably say two spaces, is because more likely they're using a typewriter-like font, and according to the GRM and the BGGP, it says two spaces. Now, the LMEG says two spaces, but the last time that book was written was 1996, where people were using typewriter-like fonts or typewriters. So only one space after a period is supported by the BGGP for just regular fonts, the GRM, CMOS, and the GPO. Because most fonts used, like here, like this font right here, is not a typewriter or monospace font. So basically, one space. It's one space after a period. But if you have a typewriter-like font, a monospace font, then you use two. That's the answer. So some examples. Here's a non-monospaced font. So it has one space. I should have highlighted it here, right, too. Here is a typewriter-like font, and we put two spaces after each one. So should have had should have been highlighted right here. For one space, this is a non-monospace font, so one space right here after the question mark. Since it's now we have a monospace font, we put two spaces. Well, it should have been highlighted here. Maybe it isn't showing up. I swear I highlighted all these. So we have a question mark. It's a non-monospace font, and we only use one space in that case. If it's a monospace font like this, then we use two spaces. And I should note that if you buy the book, you can see this. It shows the spacing with a monospace font, but unfortunately in the ebook, it translates everything into a font, or you can choose your font. So you cannot force it to use a monospace font. So those examples of the monospace font are removed from the ebook because it just doesn't show up, and I can't force it to show up. So really, you're going to have to look at this video or the book. Just a note about this, lower space after, a series of connected questions. You can see Rule 34, because this can also be written this way. But once again, you only use one space because it's a non-monospace font. And with a monospace font, it should probably be two spaces here. There's two spaces here. Same spacing. Oh, I'm sorry. I'll take it back. That's right. That rule says if it's lowercase, it has a single space. When you do lowercase, I'm completely wrong. I'll take that back. So Rule 34 is that if you capitalize then it's 2 spaces, but the rule does say that's right, is that you can use lowercase and 1 space. So this is correct. I'll take that back. Apparently I'm forgetting the rules. For the comma, semicolon, and colon, no space before and 1 space after a comma, semicolon, or colon. Exceptions include no space after a comma for numbers and no space after a colon for time format. With monospaced typewriter-like fonts, use 2 spaces after a colon. Of course, that's exempting the time format. So once again, we have a slight difference when we have monospaced fonts and non-monospaced fonts. So with monospace, it's 2 spaces after the colon. So the LMEG says 2 spaces after the colon. Once again, this book was written in 1996. They probably only had monospace fonts. The BGGP and the GRM say monospace fonts require 2 spaces after the colon. Otherwise, use 1 space. So if you're using a non-monospace font, then it's only 1 space after the colon. And CMOS says use 1 space after the colon. Of course, they're using non-monospace fonts. So here's some examples. You have a comma, so no space before, 1 space after. Except for with a comma, you have no space after with numbers. However, with the monospace font, it is still just 1 space. And then with the number amount, no space. I think it's going to say same spacing. Then with the colon, so you can see it's with time, normally there'd be 1 space after the colon. This is a non-monospace font, but since it's time, there's no space. And then 1 space after a semicolon. With the monospace font, it's basically the same. No space after the colon for the time, 1 space after the semicolon. Same spacing. And then I hate one thing, mean people, so non-monospace font, it's 1 space. But if this was written with a monospace font, then you'd have 2 spaces. So non-monospaced, one space, and a monospaced font, 2 spaces. Maybe I should just say typewriter-like font. But here's the big, so basically these all have the same spacing, and the spacing really comes out with the colon. With the typewriter-like font 2, non-typewriter-like 1. Well, that's it for this video. Please subscribe. If you like the video, please hit like. Please buy the ebook. Thank you.